what keeps me moving, thinking, reaching, is the desire to address intersectional causes of injury and to think about how our politics don't always allow us to see what happens in the intersections. So we were supposed to tell a story. So here's my story of the first intersectional, not the first, but one that I think keeps giving us gifts over the years. So I was one of the people who was on Anita Hill's defense team. And I say defense advisedly. She shouldn't have had to have a defense team, but she certainly did. And for some of you who weren't born yet, the controversy had to do with Anita Hill testifying in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee that Clarence Thomas, then a nominee for the Supreme Court, had sexually harassed her. What was particularly earth-shattering for us who were representing her was thinking on one hand that we were defending an African-American woman, defending the African-American community, yet to find out when we came out of the Capitol, it was surrounded by African-Americans, many of them women, many of them praying for Clarence Thomas to be confirmed, as against this woman who was framed as essentially a white woman. In addition, there was an op-ed that was written in the New York Times that basically said that Anita Hill was acting white by claiming that she'd been sexually harassed, and that sexual harassment was a white woman's issue, not an African-American woman's issue. Now, at that moment, it became clear to me a couple of things. Number one, that our history of sexual abuse as African-American women was not part of the recognized history of racism among African-Americans. It became clear to me that people didn't know that Rosa Parks, before she stood up for racial justice, actually stood up for African-American rape victims in the South who experienced gang rapes without the possibility of their perpetrators ever being prosecuted. So what was clear is that there was this radical disconnection between the history of anti-racism and the history of feminism, so much that many people didn't know that sexual harassment was initially a claim that was made by African-American women, a claim that was based on the fact that our history in this country has been one of sexual harassment in the place of work. So my sense is that we as a community have lost momentum many times by intersectional failures, and they come back to haunt us. So every 5-4 decision that destroys the Voting Rights Act, that destroys access that women have to Title VII, that destroys affirmative action, in a way, it's a self-inflicted injury that comes from intersectional failures, the inability to see how race, gender, and class come together.